Hey guys, Argent Templar here. So I'm going to break a rule I normally have, and I'm going to make a review while I'm in a manic state, which is probably a bad idea, but hopefully it'll be more entertaining for you guys. I generally tend to avoid it because I can get kind of angry and agitated. But I don't really think that affects how I viewed this movie. The reason there's no poster is because last time I did one for Dracula and Told, it was a month-long battle with YouTube to get the video put back up. I didn't really care about the video. It was more just the other aspects of it. Like I had like my streaming privileges revoked for a full month. So, Star Wars The Force Awakens. I guess a bit of background. I thought this movie would be bad from the first trailer. Actually, like the first couple images, frames of the first trailer, I'm like, this looks like a really, really bad idea. And nothing about this really changed my mind about it. Simply put, I thought this movie was shockingly, appallingly bad. I might be a little agitated and I might be hyperbolizing a little. But really, it's a film that I really found hard to say anything good about. I think ultimately the biggest problem with it is it doesn't stand as a sequel and it doesn't stand by itself. Part of it is that. Part of it is I just can't take the fanboyism. And this is often an issue I have where I just feel the urge to not like something. Not because people like it. That's not what I mean. Because there are times people hate things. Like there are people who hate The Dark Knight because people like The Dark Knight. My issue isn't that people like it. My issue is that they obsess over it and idealize it, and they scream and bitch and moan if anyone criticizes it a little. Like I love Dune. I like Code Geass. I like Evangelion. But I'm willing to like criticize things I like. A lot of people just can't take it. I guess a lot of people also say, well, Archie, it's just like a fun, dumb movie. Well, I guess it is. I think it fails at that. And I'm not an elitist. I like kind of dumb, fun action movies. I liked the third Expendables movie. I like Commando. I like lots of kind of cheesy, fun, dumb action movies. So that's not really the issue. I'm just saying this because some people say, well, you just hate it because it's popular. No, I hate it because I didn't think it was a good movie. I will say though that the fanboyism does irritate me. Like it's got 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. I really don't think that this movie deserves to have a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. I just don't. I mean, really, everybody liked it? Like, let me see here. What did a much better movie get? What did Interstellar get? Which I think is, like, objectively better in every way. Okay, Interstellar got 71%. So I think critics liked it for a couple reasons. A, there's the obvious political correctness angle, which I won't probably talk too much about. But I think they like it just for that. I saw all kinds of reviews saying, well, even if the movie sucks, it's a win for diversity, so we'll give it a good review anyways. There's also just this irrational hatred of the prequels. I didn't think they were that bad. I thought The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones were kind of a bit lame. I didn't really think that they were that bad, though. Revenge of the Sith is probably my favorite Star Wars movie. I really like Revenge of the Sith. I think it's a lot of fun. I thought it was kind of the apotheosis of everything Star Wars it was about, and that it redeemed the prequel trilogy. I think a lot of people just hate it because they decided that they were going to hate the prequels because they were different. And there was a lot of bad things about The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, but I kind of feel like a lot of the praise for this movie is a way of people going, well, this is back to what Star Wars originally was. And it's just kind of a carry on from the haters of the prequel trilogy. So, this is going to contain a lot of spoilers. Then again, it's kind of impossible to spoil this movie because this movie isn't really a new movie. It's not really a sequel. It's a remake. The fact that they claim that this is a sequel is deeply disturbing to me, because it isn't. It's basically, and earmuff the kids, it's basically masturbatory. This whole movie is just largely scenes taken from previous Star Wars movies and plot elements from previous Star Wars movies mashed together. I mean, say what you will about the prequels, they at least tried to do something different. You kind of had a role reversal. You had the Jedi still around. You had the Jedi in the position of power. You had the Republic, who was this kind of big, crumbling, morally ambiguous state. You had the Separatists, who are also morally ambiguous. We had a bit more focus on kind of the politics, etc. I don't think they really fleshed it out enough, but they tried to do something a bit different with the prequels. And it really makes me appreciate that watching this movie. Because literally scenes in this movie just felt like when they were filming them, they're like, oh, remember this? Ho ho, you remember this scene? Remember the garbage chute? Remember like we're gonna make a reference to clones? Remember this shot? Remember this shot? Remember the Death Star? Remember the Death Star trench run? Remember this scene? Remember the interrogation? Like, they just basically kind of took everything from the original trilogy and the prequels and repackaged it and called it a new movie. But it's not a new movie. And people are like, well, RG, it's just a fun movie. Well, I just didn't find it fun. And I can't take smugness. And I think this should be pretty obvious from this channel. The smug way that this movie was made with, screw you, we don't need to come up with a new plot. We're just going to repackage the previous movies and people will eat it up. And the fact that that worked just really irritates me. Watching the film, I just couldn't figure out what the weight was. Was it that bad a movie? It was pretty bad. But it was worse because of all the hype surrounding it. It's kind of like Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy sucked. It sucked really hard. But the reason why it was so bad wasn't because the film sucked. There's lots of movies that suck. There's a lot of movies that aren't really good. The reason it sucked was because of the hype. So let's go through this. So the movie takes place 30 years after the destruction of the second Death Star. What happened in the intervening 30 years? I have no idea. The film doesn't pretend to answer it. Apparently there's a new republic, and there's some organization called the Resistance. What is the Resistance? What is the new republic? It's never really addressed in the movie. Apparently there's a Senate. So the movie doesn't state it, which... Sorry, it's kind of hard to deal with the awfulness. The title crawl is the worst title crawl I've ever seen. It was just really kind of long and boring, and it didn't really explain anything. Like, they could have been like, the Republic has become a the Rebel Alliance has given way to the new Galactic Republic. However, there is still chaos in the galaxy. The Resistance, formed by former members of the Republic, of the Rebel Alliance, who wish to continue the fight against tyranny or whatever, have bounded together to found the Resistance, to fight the remnants of the Empire, calling themselves the First Order, or something like that, but they don't explain that. So I get the impression that the Resistance is some sort of terrorist organization that's funded by the Galactic Republic to try and take down the First Order. Apparently the Galactic Republic and the First Order aren't at war, but the First Order blows up the Republic's fleet later. So I don't know. So we don't know who the First Order is. We don't know who the leader of the First Order is. We don't know who the Republic is. We don't really know anything. And it doesn't really matter, to be honest. And I don't really care. We have... Because Star Wars was kind of like this classical good versus evil thing. And we've kind of taken this to a childish extreme. And we kind of have these cartoony good guys and cartoony bad guys. But it's not even that. It's like postmodern cartoony good guys and postmodern cartoony bad guys. I don't know. The whole movie just reeks of apathy. So let's see here. So the Resistance and the First Order continue to fight. Does the First Order control planets? Is it a government? I have no idea. It's not explained in the movie. What's the Republic? Not explained in the movie. What's the Resistance? Not really explained in the movie. And people go, well, from the supplementary material and through speculation. I know, but guys, this is a movie that came out 30 years after the original. This is also a movie, like, I think it has to stand on its own. I think you have to be able to see this and go, oh, well, there was the story. Like Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi are self-contained. I mean, it's important if you saw the previous one, but there's like a clear plot arc through them. This one just seems like they're just like, it just doesn't work on that level. So, there's a planet on, they go to a planet to find, a map where Luke is. Luke has apparently gone emo and run away. Later we find out it's because Kylo Ren freaked out and slaughtered all the Jedi for reasons that the movie doesn't bother to tell us. So he killed all the Jedi, Kylo Ren being Han Solo and Leia's son. So he killed the Jedi. Luke went emo and left, apparently to find the first Jedi temple. Or something like that. So the opening crawl says that they're there to see an old friend on this desert planet that looks exactly like Tatooine, but isn't Tatooine. So they meet what's called an old ally, who's just some random guy. I have no idea who he either is. And there's some other guy we've never heard of, Poe Dameron. Who the hell is Poe Dameron? Why couldn't they have Wedge back? Why couldn't they use some minor character for? Why couldn't they have Londo do it? I don't know. They just introduced this guy because Walter Isaacs or whatever his name, or Isaac Walters or whatever the hell his name is big at the moment. So they're there, and the First Order shows up and shoots everybody, and it's evil. Even though the villagers are armed and they shoot the First Order as they're arriving, and they're harboring basically known terrorists. Because keep in mind, the Resistance isn't really an army. It's a terrorist group funded by the New Republic. So they shoot people who are part of a group that's hiding members of a terrorist group. And this is, of course, evil. And they capture Poe, and one of the stormtroopers feels really bad. And that stormtrooper is, of course, Finn. I don't really want to get too much into Finn, at least not yet. I'll do a character profile on him. I don't really want to deal with the you-know-what regarding this movie, because this is supposed to be more kind of a mainstream review. I'll talk about that in Finn later. So they get taken to the Star Destroyer, and Poe gets tortured for information, but it turns out that he had put the information into an astrometrics droid. So who's not R2D2, so don't even ask. Is this starting to sound familiar? Like, do we have to rely on the original movies for everything? So we're on a desert planet. The Empire's there. There's like the super secret plan documents they have to get, and the guy gets captured. And then the things are on a droid, and the droid runs away, and then the main character finds the droid. I mean, could we have something like a little less like the original? So yeah, so then they're on the ship, and it turns out that Finn is like, I don't want to be a bad guy anymore. Even though I was raised since birth to be like an elite stormtrooper, for some reason I think that this is wrong, and I don't want to shoot people, so I'm going to betray my nation and my emperor and help this random rebel pilot escape. So like, what is Finn's motivation? I'm doing the right thing. Wow, that's a great motivation. I mean, like, just really, like, we couldn't talk about his past. We couldn't like show some flashbacks. We couldn't establish a bit of a character. He's just like, we're doing the right thing. Well, that's lame. I mean, it's like, why? I don't know. So he gets he helps Poe escape, and they steal a TIE fighter, and the TIE fighter crashes and explodes. Somehow Poe survives and comes back later, even though the TIE fighter explodes. Somehow he was flung from the TIE fighter like hundreds of feet in the air and survived. I don't know. So Finn walks across the planet and then comes across what's her name again? Rey. Rey is pretty obviously Luke's daughter. I actually don't know. I'm just guessing she's Luke's daughter. But she's basically, we have to endure like a half hour of her scavenging the desert, selling stuff for food. You know, like the first movie. You know, the stuff where like Luke's driving around his land speeder? We have those scenes. Except they're long, pointless, and have no context. Because, I mean, in the first movie, you had all this pathos. Like, you saw Luke's dreams, his fears, his desire to go and pursue something better. You had a little boy, like, kind of the sense of wonder of a boy looking up into the stars and wanting to go there. In this one, we don't know who Rey is, and we just don't really care. I don't really see any reason to empathize with her. She's just kind of boring. So she finds Finn, and then the First Order shows up, and they, like, run away from the First Order, and Finn pretends he's part of the the Resistance, not the Rebel Alliance, and they have to get the Astrometrics droid with the plans to the Resistance, just like the first movie. So they're running around Mos Eisley, whatever they call the port, and they... And so then they find the Millennium Falcon, which is there for some reason. How the Millennium Falcon got there, I'm not really sure. Apparently, it got stolen from Han Solo, because apparently spaceships don't have keys or passwords or retinal scans or something. So they stole it from him, and then someone stole it from him, etc. And then they used the Millennium Falcon to escape the planet. And then their engines burn out just as they escape. And then they're in orbit, and then like a cargo ship somehow picks them up. And then it turns out that Han Solo and Chewbacca are on the cargo ship. And apparently Han and Leia have a divorce. Why exactly, I'm not sure. I think it's because their son went crazy. So they aren't together anymore. So Han is back to being a criminal. And it turns out that he's working for a number of shady criminal enterprises to find extremely dangerous monsters from across the galaxy, which are virtually indestructible and eat people. So he got money from several different groups to procure these animals, these monsters. So he basically oversold them. So he took money from a bunch of different groups in a legitimate business deal, and then got angry when the people tried to collect on said deal. So, just like the first one where there's a price on Han Solo's head. Except in the first one, like, Han was just kind of like a smuggler. Like, he just smuggled some stuff, and he was in financial trouble because of, like, an unfortunate incident. So he was a little more sympathetic. And this one, he comically states, well, they're really dangerous. I used to have a larger crew. So he basically led a bunch of people to their deaths, and he doesn't really care. Just so that he can make money stealing people in a legitimate business deal. So the people get pissed off. So Finn and Rey and Ren are too similar. Go in and release the Kraken, and the gangs get eaten by by them. So then they jump to Lightspeed in the Millennium Falcon, and then they go to like a planet. And apparently this planet is like near the New Republic. I don't know, it's kind of weird because it looks like kind of this backwater planet, but when they fire the super weapon later on and blow the capital of the New Republic up, which I'm assuming is Coruscant, it's never established, because why would we want to like establish something like that? It's not important to the movie, I guess. So they go to this like shady planet, and there's like a cantina scene, and then we're introduced to, what the fuck is her name? I don't even remember what her name is. Finn, Lupita Nyong'o. So she's 1,000 years old, and she's like an old friend, and we've never heard of her before, but she's Han's old friend. So they go to her, and she's like, I'll get you guys to the Resistance. But in the basement, Rey winds up basically finding Luke's lightsaber and having a bunch of flashbacks where it's revealed pretty clearly that Kylo Ren left her on the planet or something like that. I'm not really sure. Rey really wants to go back to the planet that's not Tatooine to I don't know, to like wait for someone who's obviously Luke. So yeah. So then so they're stranded there. Then it's revealed that there's a new Death Star. Oh no, wait, it's not the Death Star, it's the Star Killer, which uses the energy from a sun to fire an even bigger laser weapon that can shoot across space and can destroy multiple planets. So we get like this Nazi speech, and it's really lame. I don't really know what the First Order's ideology is. It's not really explained. So they want to bring order to the galaxy? Do they want to restore Palpatine? Is it aristocracy, monarchy, fascism? I have no idea. They're just generic evil guys. So they destroy the New Republic's homeworld, I think. And they somehow destroy the entire fleet because that's the way like space fleets work. They're all in one place at one time. So the weapon, of course, takes an absurdly long amount of time to charge up. So it takes the rest of the movie for them to charge it up again. So they're on the like backwater world, and Finn takes the lightsaber and he's somehow able to use it, I guess because he's force sensitive. I don't know. I only thought Jedis were able to use lightsabers because it's kind of a terrible weapon. Like, it's not balanced. There's no resistance, like if you swing it through the air. I imagine like you can't really use one without killing yourself unless you're force trained. But he's able to use one for some reason, and like they fight some stormtroopers. Walter Isaacs or whatever his character Poe comes back, and apparently he's alive when he brings like a bunch of ships with him. And then there's like a really kind of lame low-key fight scene. And then Kylo Ren shows up and he captures Rey and takes her back to his ship to get interrogated. So they have a plan to send Finn and like Han and Chewie to Starkiller Base, and they're going to lower the deflector shield and then shoot it, like shoot the regulator or whatever, which will cause it to self-destruct. So in other words, they're going to do a Death Star trench run and blow up the core, and that's exactly what the scene looks like. So like we did this shit twice before. We did this in we did this in Return of the Jedi, and we did this in A New Hope, but we have to do it again because they're incapable of coming up with anything else other than making a new Death Star that's in it, like a bigger, betterer Death Star. I guess that's just like how it is. So they like Rey gets like tortured by Kylo Ren, and he finds out that she's a Sith. We get to see Kylo Ren's face for the first time, and he looks like a Randy. He kind of comes across as like a whiny kid. Why is he evil? Why did he fall to the dark side? I don't know. It's never really explored. Who are the Knights of Ren? I have no idea who the Knights of Ren are. What does his name mean? Who's Kylo Ren? Because apparently his original name was Ben. So he's Kylo Ren of the Knights of Ren. Why does he use a cross-shaped lightsaber? I don't know. None of these questions are really explained. We don't really know anything about him except for the fact that he's evil and he's Han and Leia's son, and that they got divorced over his defection or whatever. We have a really awkward reunion scene between the two of them in this movie. So we have like this meeting on a rebel base that's about to be destroyed by the super weapon when they come up with a plan to fire the torpedoes down the Death Star's ventilation shaft because the Empire overlooked a single starfighter. So Rey escapes, and Kylo Ren tries to chase her down, and then Finn and the others get to the Death Star, and then we have like a scene that's basically a copy of the scene where they're on the Death Star in the first movie, including what's her name, Gwendolyn Christie, who's Brienne of Tarth. She shows up briefly as Captain Phasmas, which is another fucking stupid name, and she's like, I'm a feminist character or something. So she's like some big imperial big shot. So apparently like the Empire is affirmative action. She plays no role in this movie, and she only gets captured. They hold a gun to her head so she'll bring down the shields, and then they send her into the garbage compactor. Like from the original movie. So it was a waste of a good actress, waste of a kind of a kick-ass, potentially kick-ass character. She was in the promotional materials a lot, but does nothing in this movie, and betrays the Empire for some reason. So they plant explosives, and they're gonna blow the shield generator up. But then Kylo Ren shows up, and he's angry. And they fight in they're out in this thing that kind of looks like the thing from Bespin, where Luke and Vader are fighting out on that platform. And Han Solo goes out, and Kylo Ren's crying, and he's like, "I'm so conflicted between light and dark." And people think Anakin was angsty. Kylo Ren's even fucking angstier. I thought he was going to be cool, because I thought he was going to be edgy. And there was kind of a cool scene earlier on where he basically worships Vader, and he keeps Vader's helmet, and he wants to emulate him, he wears the mask with the voice modulator, which sounds really annoying. Why couldn't they get James Earl Jones to come back and do it? I don't know, maybe he didn't want to be in this schlock, I can't blame him. So they meet on the bridge, and he's like, "Father, I need to be free from my feelings." And then he kills Han Solo, which I saw coming really early in the movie that he was going to kill him. What's his name? Harrison Ford's probably just happy to be out of the movie. I can't really blame him. The years have been kind to him. He still looks pretty good. Carrie Fisher looks absolutely horrific in this movie, and I couldn't even recognize her. So that happens. They bring down the shield generator. Wait a minute, that also happened in Return of the Jedi, where they bring down the shield generator so they could fire at the core of the Death Star. So they bring down the shield generator, the fighters fire at the core of the Death Star 30 seconds before it can come online and fire again. And then we have kind of a lame lightsaber duel. Kylo Ren had previously gotten shot, because otherwise he should just be able to kick their asses. But Finn manages to hurt him in a battle, and he almost kills Finn. But then Rey comes up, and they have a lightsaber duel, and she somehow manages to beat Kylo Ren, despite the fact that Kylo Ren is trained and is stronger. I guess because he was wounded earlier. I don't know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So she hurts Kylo Ren, and then she manages to escape, and Kylo Ren manages to escape, and the planet explodes, killing much of the First Order's military force. There's then kind of a scene at the end where Finn is in a coma, and Ren and the rest of them figure out how to use the pieces of the map in combination with R2-D2. They find where Luke has been. Being angsty, in the final shot of the movie is Rey meeting up with Luke, and Luke standing there just looking like he's like, "What the fuck did they bring me out of retirement for this schlock?" So what can be said about Star Wars The Force Awakens? It's an incoherent movie that relies upon nostalgia, bringing people back, etc., and just cribbing from previous iterations of the franchise, rather than really trying to do anything new. I think that the core problem of the film is just really fucking boring. The characters are not really that interesting. They're either whiny, like in the case of Kylo Ren, bland in the case of Rey, or obnoxious in the case of Finn, who's kind of like a cross between Jar Jar and no, I won't disgrace Lando Calrissian. I know he kind of reminds me a bit of Jar Jar. And that's not even racial. It just he's just kind of like this goofy, obnoxious guy. It's just boring. We have to watch all these scenes of Rey in the desert. There's just so many scenes that just stretch out of them just oh look, there's another homage. Remember the chessboard from the first Star Wars movie? We're gonna have an homage to that. We're gonna have the scene where they're working in the floor underneath the Millennium Falcon. We're gonna have just some other reference to it. It just kind of goes on and on and on, and the action scenes just aren't that impressive. They don't have the kind of sterile, sophisticated technological war of the future of the original, and they don't kind of have the classic World War II-esque war feel of the prequels. It's just very strange. The movie didn't really feel like it was a finished product. It felt like they just took a bunch of scenes and edited them together. Also, I didn't mention it, but Snook? Who the fuck is Snook? The head of the First Order is named Snook. What the hell? He's Andy Serkis. He doesn't even look like a human. I thought the Empire were human supremacists. But they have some like weird alien that leads them. And we have Captain Phasmus, who's a woman. I thought it was human supremacy. And then we have the general, who's like some whiny brat. But that makes sense because it's the Empire. And on that note, why is it called the First Order? Palpatine was called the New Order. So the successor to the New Order is the First Order. But that numerically doesn't make no sense, unless the New Order was the Zero Order, and then the First Order succeeds the Zero Order. Or maybe it's kind of like popes, where you have Pope Francis, and then his successor will be Pope Francis the First. I don't know, it doesn't really make any sense. Who is Snook? Was he in the previous movies? I don't know who he is. There's like a thing where Kylo Ren tries to turn Rey to the dark side, just like in the originals. Like, remember that? Remember when Vader tried to turn Luke to the dark side? Yeah, they had that in this movie. So basically, my big issue with this movie is it felt like one big teaser trailer. Like, we'll give you what you want, but later on, here's just kind of like a remix. Like, here's the final remix of the previous Star Wars movies. Maybe next time we'll put in some effort. So overall, I thought it was a pretty bad movie. Maybe I overreacted a bit, but it just feels. It's a combination of it feeling like they just didn't care when they made it, the complete lack of kind of creativity, etc., and just the smugness of the fanboys. Overall, though, I just think it's a pretty bad movie. It's not the worst film I've ever seen, but I want to hate it more than I did, just because it was kind of disappointing. Like, I didn't have high expectations, but it was just bad, and it was let's see here, and it was boring. Oh, so in the words of Plinkett, the movie was pretty bad. I hope you enjoyed this review. I know I'll get a lot of hate for this. People will be like, it's Star Wars, Archie. You gotta give it a good review. I know. I'll talk to you guys later. Argent Templar signing out.